Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I'm going to talk to you today about Tai Chi and heart failure. Really, the two subjects do come together. I'm going to talk about how I got into Tai Chi and what heart failure had to do with that. My story begins, as many stories do, in the doctor's office. And the doctor said to me, there might be something wrong with your heart. Let's have an echo test. Now, an echo test is where they take a sonar probe and they cover it with some stuff that's very cold and they stick it on your side and they do a sonar scan of your heart. And in my case, the person doing the sonar scan found out that the muscle on the back of my heart was dead. This is not what you want to know. It may be what you need to know, but it's not what you want to know. Well, that led to let's go on to the next step, which is an angiogram. And an angiogram is where they put you on an operating table. Now we're in a full formal operating theater with doctors and nurses and machinery all around. And they put a contrast dye in you, and the contrast dye gives you a flash of heat from your toes to your scalp that goes like that. It's a very memorable thing to have happen. Then they take a moving picture of your heart and they put it up on this screen right over you. And then the nice young nurse went over by the screen and held her hands together in a fist, and that was how large my heart should be. And my heart was quite obviously a bit larger than that. So that's when we discovered I had dilated cardiomyopathy. Later on, I was talking to my cardiologist about these tests, and we said, well, we might tie this medication, we might do that medication, and we might do the other thing. And I said, well, what we don't want this to do is to slide into heart failure. And the doctor said, Paul, you have heart failure. We're trying to control it. This is not what I wanted to hear. It's what I needed to hear, but it's not what I wanted to hear. Now, the nice thing, is there a nice thing? Yeah, there's a nice thing. The nice thing about heart failure, if you have it clearly defined, is that you can find out how long you're going to live, which, some people would like to know that. So you look it up on the chart, and I was a class 3C. And you look that up on the chart, and we're now 65 years old, and 3C, I've got about 6 to 8 years. Plan on the last year being a bad one, in and out of the hospital, and then gone. Well, that was about 18 years ago, so maybe that prediction wasn't really as good as they hoped it was, or I feared it was. And here I am. Now, what do you do about heart failure? Well, there's a lot of things you can do about heart failure. There's medication you can take. You can take beta blockers, ACE blockers, diuretics. I've taken all of these and then some. One interesting medication you can take is something called amiodarone, because one of the follow-on things that happens when your heart dilates is frequently it becomes irregular in heartbeat. So not only is your heart not working as efficiently as you would hope it would, but it's also beating irregularly, which is another layer of inefficiency. And there's a medication called amiodarone that you can take for that irregular heartbeat, which is a good thing to do. And I took the amiodarone and I got somewhat better. Now, about 1 in 7 who takes amiodarone comes down with asthma. Now, asthma is not a good idea. You can guess which one I was. I was the number 1 out of 7 that got asthma. But I didn't know that at the time. So I went down to the library at the University of Minnesota, the medical library, And I asked the nice young lady if she would help me look for some understanding in what amiodarone is and what it does. And what she did was she gave me a book. Can you imagine that in this day of computers? She gave me a book. And the book said, if you keep taking amiodarone, you're going to die. So I went back to the cardiologist and we discussed this, and we took me off of amiodarone and put a little note in my chart: do not give this person amiodarone. And we moved on to other things. Another thing we tried was having a pacemaker. Now, pacemakers are very good, but when you come out of the um, lab and you're in the intensive care unit, they've just put the pacemaker in you, and the doctor comes in and says, how are things going? And you say, well, actually, things are going pretty good, but what's this? There was a muscle in my chest that was pulsing in time to the heartbeat. And what it was is the pacemaker was leaking electricity. It's not supposed to do that. So we went back down to the operating room, put another one in. So in 24 hours, I had two pacemakers. This got me off to a fast start. Anyway, I got pacemakers. Now, when you have heart failure, one of the pieces of good advice that you will get is go get exercise. Exercise is good for you. So I went back to the YMCA and I exercised and I lifted weights and I walked on the treadmill and I lifted weights and I walked on the treadmill and I was walking on the treadmill and I was walking real hard. And then I woke up on the floor with a policewoman's face about this far from me saying, what's your name? What's your name? What had happened was the pacemaker started double counting my heartbeat. If you know how to read an EKG, you'll understand what I mean when I said I was throwing tall T waves. It essentially was double counting my heartbeat, and what it was doing when it double counts your heartbeat is it says, okay, your heart is going too fast. If it's going too fast, it's in fibrillation. And the part for the pacemaker to do at that point is to stop the heart. And it stopped the heart. And when my heart stopped, I fell down. 9 seconds later, the pacemaker said, there's no activity, and it started me back up again, which is good, which is part of why I'm here today. Well, then they put me on the gurney, and they took me out to the ambulance, and I called my wife on the cell phone and said, hi, I'm on my way down to United Hospital. Would you come get me? We went down to the hospital, and we met there by a representative from the pacemaker company who put the wires on me and looked at it. And the pacemaker keeps track of all this stuff and stores it in memory. So it can say, here's where it started reading, double reading the heartbeats, and here's where it armed, and here's where it went off, and here's where it started you back up again. Fascinating stuff. I don't recommend it, but fascinating stuff. Well, after that little adventure, I came to the conclusion that maybe exercising at the Y was not really the best idea if it involved occasional trips to the emergency room because my pacemaker went off. However, about that time, I had heard about Tai Chi, oh heavens, who knows how long before. I actually did judo when I was a kid, but that's quite different. Anyway, I found some people who were doing Tai Chi, and I visited the Tai Chi classes, and it didn't work because sometimes you don't match the group that's doing the Tai Chi. And that happens, and I left them and I joined another group called Twin Cities Tai Chi, and they had a nice studio. I stayed with them for about a year and a half, and I learned how to do sword Tai Chi, which was educational. But they do deep knee bends, and my old knees don't do deep knee bends real well. And so after a year and a half of that, I left. But then the YMCA came out with something called Tai Chi for Arthritis, also called Sun Tai Chi. And this is a form of Tai Chi that had been modified for people with arthritis, like me. And so it's relatively upright, relatively slow and gentle, and flowing and beautiful. And I've been doing it ever since. I think it's been a dozen years now. About a year later, I was helping teach the class. Within 2 years, I became a certified group fitness instructor and a certified Tai Chi instructor. And since then, I've been certified, recertified, re-recertified, and re-re-recertified as a Tai Chi instructor and group fitness instructor. And it's an interesting field to be in. But I got to tell you what happened at the class when I went to become a group fitness instructor. Now, YMCA people are nice people, kind of by definition. They have to be. I think it's in the book someplace. But you walk into a room of Tai Chi instructors, and um, they're all women. Well, not all of them, but 90% of them are women, and young and tall. Even the short ones are tall. How do they do that? Anyway, here's all these lovely people and me. I kind of feel like the odd man out. When we have a staff meeting, and there are literally 47 women instructors and me, I definitely feel like I'm very fortunate to be allowed in the room. And it's a nice room to be in, and they're nice people, so I'm glad to be there, but it's a trifle strange. The YMCA then taught me another form of Tai Chi called Tai Chi Chuan Movement for Better Balance. This is based on a Yang style of Tai Chi, and it is, as the name says, for better balance for senior citizens. This came from Medicare, actually. It's your tax dollars at work if you live in the United States. The United States National Institutes of Health paid to have TJQ MMB, that is fondly referred to, or just better balance, to be developed because the federal government spends billions of dollars on fixing people who have fallen down. Medicare has a big financial interest in this. They created the program, they ran clinical trials where they followed literally thousands of people, and they found out people who do Tai Chi fall down less. People who do Tai Chi get hurt less. People who do Tai Chi cost less. It's a real win-win system. Now, the other thing, of course, is that one of the leading causes of accidental death for senior citizens is falls. That doesn't enter into the financial calculations, but I don't know about you, it enters into my calculations. So that's the course I'm teaching now, is Tai Chi Chuan, Movement for Better Balance. I made a couple small modifications to it. And I teach that on the internet every day at 10 o'clock in the morning, Central Standard Time in Minnesota. That would be about 6 o'clock in Cairo, Egypt, where one of my students comes in. That's Samir Malak's mother, Marilyn, who is a delightful person, and she was in class just last Wednesday. Always a pleasure to see her. My classes are free. I am retired, so I can do things like this. And if people want to come to my class, they're welcome to join. Some people do send me money, which is appreciated because I'm paying for a higher speed internet connection, which I need really to teach a class. And that makes it financially neutral for me, and I appreciate that. But that's why I do it. And last Tuesday was the 300th consecutive day on which we've done Tai Chi Chuan Movement for Better Balance online since last March 17th, every day. We're always there. And if you have a chance, you're all welcome to join me. I will send you an email with the Zoom number if you'd like to join us. You're always welcome. Madam Toastmaster, it's been a pleasure.